Question 1. Benchmark analysis indicates that a certified EC Council instructor, C, is evaluating a candidate's performance in a practical cybersecurity lab exercise. The candidate has demonstrated a strong theoretical understanding and has successfully completed most of the tasks, but has made a minor procedural error in one non-critical step that did not compromise the overall outcome of the exercise. The CEI has a personal impression that the candidate is highly intelligent and would likely excel in the field with further experience. Based on the established assessment rubric, the candidate technically falls short of a perfect score due to the procedural error, but their overall grasp of the concepts is evident. What is the most appropriate decision-making approach for the CEI in this situation? Option A. Fail the candidate strictly based on the procedural error, as per the letter of the assessment rubric, without considering the overall performance or potential. Option B. Pass the candidate based on the CEI's personal impression of their intelligence and potential, disregarding the procedural error and the assessment rubric. Option C. Require the candidate to repeat the entire lab exercise immediately to correct the minor procedural error, regardless of their overall performance. Option D. Pass the candidate, acknowledging the minor procedural error but recognizing their overall strong performance and evident potential, and document this rationale. The correct answer is D. Pass the candidate, acknowledging the minor procedural error but recognizing their overall strong performance and evident potential, and document this rationale. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the certified EC Council instructor, C, is tasked with evaluating a candidate's performance in a cybersecurity training program. The challenge lies in balancing the need for objective assessment with the instructor's personal perception of the candidate's potential, which could be influenced by factors outside the defined assessment criteria. The instructor must adhere strictly to the established evaluation framework to ensure fairness and consistency, as mandated by professional standards, and potentially by the training provider's internal policies, which are implicitly governed by the principles of ethical conduct expected of a CEI. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the candidate's performance against the predefined learning objectives and assessment criteria. This method ensures that the evaluation is objective, evidence-based, and free from personal bias. It aligns with the professional responsibility of a CEI to uphold the integrity of the certification process by applying consistent standards to all candidates. This approach is ethically sound as it promotes fairness and equal opportunity, and it is professionally best practice because it provides a defensible and transparent basis for the assessment outcome, minimizing the risk of arbitrary decisions. An incorrect approach would be to allow personal feelings or subjective impressions to override the objective assessment data. For instance, if an instructor were to pass a candidate solely based on a gut feeling of their potential, despite a documented lack of proficiency in key areas, this would represent a failure to adhere to the established assessment framework. This could lead to the certification of individuals who do not meet the required competency standards, thereby undermining the credibility of the certification itself. Such an action would be ethically questionable as it compromises fairness and could be seen as a dereliction of professional duty. Another incorrect approach would be to fail a candidate based on a minor, non-critical error that does not impact their overall understanding or ability to perform the core functions, especially if the candidate has demonstrated strong performance in other critical areas. This would be an arbitrary and potentially unfair judgment, failing to consider the holistic performance as intended by the assessment design. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making framework that prioritizes objective data and established criteria. This involves 1. Understanding the assessment objectives and criteria thoroughly. 2. Gathering and meticulously documenting all performance evidence. 3. Comparing the evidence against the criteria objectively. 4. Consulting with peers or supervisors if there is any ambiguity or significant deviation from expected outcomes. 5. Communicating the assessment outcome clearly and providing constructive feedback based on the evidence. This systematic process ensures that decisions are fair, consistent, and defensible, upholding professional integrity. Question 2. To address the challenge of a student who understands the theoretical concepts of a cybersecurity lab but consistently fails to execute the practical steps correctly, what is the most appropriate course of action for a certified EC Council instructor, C, to ensure both the integrity of the certification and the student's genuine competency? Option A. Immediately fail the student for not meeting the practical requirements of the lab, citing their inability to perform the necessary tasks. Option B. Pass the student, assuming their theoretical knowledge will compensate for their practical shortcomings and encourage them to practice more on their own time. Option C. Provide the student with the exact solutions to the lab exercise to help them complete it successfully and move on to the next module. Option D. Provide the student with additional, guided practice sessions focused on the specific areas of difficulty, clearly explaining the rationale behind each step, and reevaluate their performance on a similar, but not identical, lab exercise. The correct answer is D. Provide the student with additional, guided practice sessions focused on the specific areas of difficulty, clearly explaining the rationale behind each step, and reevaluate their performance on a similar, but not identical, lab exercise. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge for certified EC Council instructors, where a student, despite demonstrating a strong theoretical understanding, struggles with practical application during a hands-on lab exercise. This is professionally challenging because the CEI must balance the need to uphold the integrity of the certification process, ensure all students meet the required competency standards, and provide constructive support to the struggling student. The CEI's role is not just to impart knowledge, but also to assess competence and foster a learning environment that promotes genuine skill development. The correct approach, which involves providing targeted, step-by-step guidance and additional practice opportunities while clearly communicating the performance gap, represents best professional practice. This aligns with the ethical obligations of a CEI to ensure fair assessment and to facilitate student learning. It upholds the credibility of the EC Council certification by ensuring that only competent individuals are certified. This approach is also consistent with the principles of adult learning, which emphasize practical application and individualized support. An incorrect approach that immediately fails the student without offering further remediation or support demonstrates a lack of professional judgment and empathy. This could be seen as a failure to uphold the spirit of the certification, which aims to develop skilled professionals, not just to administer tests. Ethically, it is questionable to deny an opportunity for improvement without exploring all avenues. Another incorrect approach, which is to pass the student despite clear evidence of insufficient practical skills, directly undermines the integrity of the certification. This violates the CEI's responsibility to accurately assess competence and to maintain the value of the EC Council credentials. It is a disservice to the student, future employers, and the cybersecurity community. A further incorrect approach, such as providing the student with direct answers or solutions to the lab exercise, constitutes academic dishonesty and compromises the validity of the assessment. This not only violates ethical standards, but also fails to equip the student with the necessary skills, potentially leading to future security vulnerabilities. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes clear communication, objective assessment, and a commitment to student development. This involves 1. Identifying the specific performance gap, 2. Exploring remediation strategies that are fair and effective, 3. Documenting the assessment and any interventions, 4. Communicating transparently with the student about expectations and outcomes, 5. Adhering strictly to the established certification policies and ethical guidelines. Question 3. Risk assessment procedures indicate that for the Ethical Hacking Essentials module, the instructor must evaluate the potential impacts of various ethical hacking techniques. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the pedagogical goals of an EC Council certified instructor? Option A. Focus exclusively on the quantifiable financial losses that could result from a successful ethical hacking attempt, as this is the most significant impact. Option B. Limit the impact assessment to only the immediate, direct technical consequences of a single ethical hacking technique, ignoring any broader or indirect effects. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive assessment of all possible cybersecurity risks, regardless of their direct relevance to the specific module's content, to ensure maximum coverage. Option D. Prioritize the identification of impacts most relevant to the module's learning objectives and the target audience's skill level, ensuring a focus on both technical and ethical consequences. The correct answer is D. Prioritize the identification of impacts most relevant to the module's learning objectives and the target audience's skill level, ensuring a focus on both technical and ethical consequences. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge for certified EC Council instructors, when conducting impact assessments for cybersecurity training programs. The challenge lies in balancing the need for comprehensive risk identification with the practical constraints of time, resources, and the specific learning objectives of the course. A CEI must not only understand the technical aspects of cybersecurity, but also the pedagogical implications of how risks are presented and assessed within an educational context. The instructor's role is to facilitate learning, not just to perform a technical risk assessment in isolation. The pressure to deliver a high-quality, relevant training program while adhering to the EC Council's standards and ensuring student comprehension makes this a professionally demanding situation. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves prioritizing the identification of impacts that are most relevant to the specific learning objectives of the Ethical Hacking Essentials module and the target audience's skill level. This means focusing on the potential consequences of ethical hacking activities, both successful and unsuccessful, that directly relate to the concepts being taught, such as unauthorized access, data breaches, or system disruption. This approach aligns with the EC Council's emphasis on practical, hands-on learning and the ethical considerations inherent in cybersecurity training. By linking the impact assessment directly to the curriculum, the CEI ensures that the training is not only informative, but also actionable and ethically grounded, preparing students for real-world scenarios within a controlled and legal framework. This demonstrates a deep understanding of both the subject matter and the instructional design principles required for effective cybersecurity education. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to conduct an overly broad and generic impact assessment that covers every conceivable cybersecurity risk without regard for the specific scope of the Ethical Hacking Essentials module. This would dilute the learning experience, overwhelm students with irrelevant information, and fail to adequately address the core concepts of ethical hacking. It represents a failure to tailor the assessment to the educational context and the specific learning outcomes, potentially leading to a superficial understanding of the material. Another incorrect approach is to focus solely on the technical severity of potential impacts, such as the monetary cost of a data breach, without considering the ethical implications or the learning objectives of the training. While technical impact is important, an ethical hacking course must also emphasize the responsible and legal use of hacking techniques. Neglecting the ethical dimension would be a significant failure in delivering a comprehensive and responsible cybersecurity education, potentially leading students to misunderstand the boundaries of ethical hacking. A third incorrect approach is to limit the impact assessment to only the immediate, direct consequences of a specific ethical hacking technique, ignoring the cascading or indirect effects. Ethical hacking can have far-reaching implications, and a thorough impact assessment should consider these broader consequences to provide students with a holistic understanding of the responsibilities associated with such activities. Failing to do so would present an incomplete picture and could lead to a naive approach to cybersecurity practices. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role should adopt a structured decision-making process that begins with a clear understanding of the training program's objectives and the target audience. They should then identify potential risks associated with the subject matter, followed by an assessment of the potential impacts of those risks, prioritizing those that are most relevant to the learning outcomes and ethical considerations. This process should be iterative, allowing for adjustments based on feedback and evolving understanding. The CEI must always consider the dual role of educator and guardian of ethical practices, ensuring that the training not only imparts technical knowledge, but also instills a strong sense of responsibility and ethical conduct in aspiring cybersecurity professionals. Question 4. Benchmark analysis indicates that a certified EC Council instructor is preparing to deliver a module on impact assessment within a cybersecurity training program. The instructor wants to illustrate the potential business impact of a successful cyber attack. Which of the following approaches best balances educational effectiveness with ethical and legal responsibilities? Option A. Presenting anonymized but detailed logs from a recent, sophisticated cyber attack on a critical infrastructure provider, focusing on the exact command and control infrastructure used and the specific exploit chain. Option B. Detailing the specific network architecture vulnerabilities commonly found in financial institutions and demonstrating how an attacker could exploit them to cause significant data exfiltration and system downtime. Option C, simulating a live demonstration of exploiting a known, unpatched zero-day vulnerability against a simulated corporate network, highlighting the immediate impact on data integrity and system availability. Option D, describing the potential financial losses, reputational damage, and operational disruptions that could result from a generic ransomware attack on a medium-sized enterprise, using hypothetical scenarios and publicly understood threat vectors. The correct answer is D, describing the potential financial losses, reputational damage, and operational disruptions that could result from a generic ransomware attack on a medium-sized enterprise, using hypothetical scenarios and publicly understood threat vectors. Explanation: the scenario presents a common challenge for certified EC Council instructors. C. When delivering training that touches upon the practical application of cybersecurity principles, particularly in the context of impact assessment. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need to provide realistic, scenario-based learning with the ethical and legal obligations to avoid exposing sensitive information or encouraging potentially harmful activities, even in a simulated environment. CEIs must exercise careful judgment to ensure training remains educational, without crossing into the territory of providing actionable intelligence or facilitating unauthorized access. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the ethical and legal responsibilities inherent in cybersecurity education. By focusing on publicly available information and generalized threat models, the instructor adheres to the principle of do no harm and avoids any implication of condoning or facilitating unauthorized access. This aligns with the broader ethical guidelines for cybersecurity professionals and the EC Council's commitment to responsible education. The emphasis on theoretical understanding and the potential consequences of various attack vectors, without delving into specific, exploitable details, ensures that the learning objectives are met in a safe and compliant manner. An incorrect approach that involves detailing specific vulnerabilities of a hypothetical but identifiable type of organization, e.g., a specific industry's common network configurations, fails because it risks providing a roadmap for malicious actors, even unintentionally. This crosses an ethical boundary by potentially enabling harm. Another incorrect approach, which might involve using anonymized but still highly specific real-world attack data, is problematic as it can still inadvertently reveal patterns or techniques that could be exploited. The most egregious incorrect approach would be to simulate or describe the exploitation of a known, unpatched vulnerability, as this directly demonstrates harmful techniques and could encourage their application. All these incorrect approaches violate the ethical imperative to prevent harm and could lead to reputational damage for the instructor and EC Council, and potentially legal repercussions if the information were misused. The professional decision-making process for CEIs in such situations should involve a risk-based assessment. First, clearly define the learning objectives. Second, evaluate the potential for the chosen teaching method to cause harm or facilitate illicit activities. Third, consult relevant EC Council guidelines and ethical codes. Fourth, prioritize the use of generalized examples, theoretical concepts, and publicly available threat intelligence. If specific examples are necessary, ensure they are sufficiently abstracted or hypothetical to prevent direct application. Finally, always err on the side of caution when in doubt, opting for a less detailed but ethically sound approach. Question 5. The control framework reveals that a certified EC Council instructor is preparing to deliver a training session on incident response. The instructor has recently encountered a highly publicized, but still actively developing, real-world security incident at a major corporation. The instructor is considering incorporating specific, albeit anonymized, technical details of the attack vector and the compromised systems into the training to illustrate the practical application of incident response procedures. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the professional responsibilities and ethical guidelines for a certified EC Council instructor? Option A. Directly incorporate specific, anonymized technical details of the attack vector and compromise systems from the real-world incident, even if the incident is still actively developing and the organization has not publicly disclosed all information. Option B. Integrate generalized, anonymized lessons learned from the real-world incident, focusing on the types of vulnerabilities exploited and the general steps taken in response, without revealing any specific, non-public details of the affected organization or its systems. Option C. Utilize publicly available but potentially outdated information about similar past incidents to illustrate the concepts, ensuring no connection is made to the current, actively developing incident. Option D. Create entirely hypothetical scenarios that mimic the general nature of the real-world incident, but avoid any direct reference to the actual event or its participants. The correct answer is B. Integrate generalized, anonymized lessons learned from the real-world incident, focusing on the types of vulnerabilities exploited and the general steps taken in response, without revealing any specific, non-public details of the affected organization or its systems. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an instructor to balance the need for accurate and up-to-date training material with the potential for introducing proprietary or sensitive information that could violate confidentiality agreements or intellectual property rights. The instructor must exercise careful judgment to ensure that the training remains relevant and effective without compromising ethical or legal obligations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes adherence to the EC Council's established curriculum and guidelines, which are designed to ensure consistent and high-quality training. By focusing on integrating real-world examples that are anonymized and generalized, the instructor upholds ethical standards by respecting confidentiality and intellectual property. This approach aligns with the professional responsibility of an EC Council certified instructor to deliver training that is both informative and compliant with industry best practices and ethical codes. An incorrect approach that involves directly referencing specific, identifiable vulnerabilities from a recent, unpatched corporate network breach would be a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This would violate confidentiality agreements with the affected organization, potentially expose sensitive information, and could even have legal ramifications for both the instructor and EC Council. It demonstrates a lack of professional discretion and a disregard for the trust placed in instructors to handle information responsibly. Another incorrect approach, such as fabricating hypothetical scenarios that are overly simplistic or misleading, would fail to provide students with the practical, nuanced understanding required for effective cybersecurity practices. This undermines the credibility of the training and the certification itself, as it does not adequately prepare individuals for real-world challenges. It represents a failure to meet the professional obligation of delivering accurate and relevant instruction. A third incorrect approach, which involves using publicly available but outdated vulnerability information without context or explanation of its current relevance, would also be professionally deficient. While not as severe as breaching confidentiality, it fails to equip students with knowledge of contemporary threats and defenses, thus diminishing the value of the training. It suggests a lack of effort in keeping the curriculum current and relevant. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough assessment of the information source, its sensitivity, and its relevance to the learning objectives. Instructors should always consult EC Council, official training materials, and guidelines. When considering supplementary examples, they must ensure that any real-world data is anonymized, generalized, and does not violate any confidentiality, privacy, or intellectual property rights. If in doubt, it is always best to err on the side of caution and seek clarification from EC Council or use purely hypothetical, illustrative examples. The primary goal is to educate effectively while maintaining the highest ethical and professional standards. Question 6. Consider a scenario where a certified EC Council instructor C is preparing to deliver the Certified Ethical Hacker (CEI) training. During a discussion about network scanning techniques, a trainee expresses interest in seeing a live demonstration of how a specific vulnerability can be exploited on a real-world system. The instructor has access to a test environment that mimics a corporate network, but also has a personal, unsecured wireless network available in their home. The instructor is aware of a publicly documented vulnerability that could be exploited on certain older router models, similar to those on their personal network. Which of the following actions best aligns with the CEI's professional responsibilities and the regulatory framework governing EC Council certifications? Option A. Conduct a live demonstration of the exploit on the publicly documented vulnerability using the instructor's personal, unsecured wireless network, emphasizing that this is for educational purposes only. Option B. Attempt to find a vulnerable system on a public Wi-Fi network to demonstrate the exploit in real time, arguing that this provides the most authentic learning experience. Option C. Utilize a case study from a recent cybersecurity incident reported in the news, anonymizing the details and explaining the exploit's methodology without any practical demonstration. Option D. Explain the exploit conceptually, referencing publicly available research and demonstrating the process using a fully isolated and simulated lab environment that replicates the target system's vulnerabilities without any connection to external networks. The correct answer is A. Conduct a live demonstration of the exploit on the publicly documented vulnerability using the instructor's personal, unsecured wireless network, emphasizing that this is for educational purposes only. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge for certified EC Council instructors, C, in maintaining the integrity of the certification process while balancing the need for practical, real-world application in training. The core professional challenge lies in ensuring that training materials accurately reflect the current threat landscape and ethical considerations without inadvertently exposing trainees to harmful or illegal techniques or misrepresenting the scope of authorized ethical hacking practices. This requires careful judgment, a deep understanding of the EC Council Code of Ethics, and adherence to the specific guidelines governing CEIs. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the ethical and legal boundaries of cybersecurity training. By focusing on publicly available information, simulated environments, and anonymized case studies, the instructor upholds the principles of responsible disclosure and avoids any actions that could be construed as promoting or facilitating illegal activities. This aligns directly with the CEI's responsibility to deliver training that is both informative and ethically sound, safeguarding both the trainees and the broader cybersecurity community. The instructor's commitment to staying current with legal and ethical standards, as mandated by EC Council, is paramount. An incorrect approach that involves demonstrating live exploits on a public network would be a severe regulatory and ethical failure. This directly violates the principle of do no harm and the prohibition against unauthorized access or damage to systems. It would expose the instructor and trainees to legal repercussions and damage the reputation of EC Council and its certification programs. Another incorrect approach, such as using proprietary or sensitive company data for training examples without explicit authorization, would constitute a breach of confidentiality and potentially violate data protection laws, leading to significant legal and professional consequences. Furthermore, presenting outdated or inaccurate information about legal frameworks surrounding ethical hacking would mislead trainees and undermine the credibility of the certification. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the EC Council Code of Ethics and relevant legal statutes. When faced with a training scenario, they should ask, does this activity have the potential to cause harm? Is this activity legal and authorized? Does this activity align with the spirit and letter of ethical hacking principles? If there is any doubt, the instructor should err on the side of caution, seek clarification from EC Council, or adapt the training to a demonstrably safe and legal alternative. Continuous professional development in legal and ethical best practices is crucial for maintaining certification and professional integrity. Question 7. The investigation demonstrates a certified EC Council instructor, C, preparing to conduct a practical demonstration involving network scanning tools. The CEI intends to showcase the capabilities of a specific tool that, while legitimate for penetration testing, could be misused for unauthorized reconnaissance if employed outside of a controlled lab environment. The CEI is concerned about the ethical implications and potential legal ramifications of demonstrating this tool on a network segment that, while isolated for training purposes, shares some underlying infrastructure with a live, albeit non-critical, university network. The CEI must decide how to proceed with the demonstration to ensure effective learning without compromising ethical standards or legal compliance. Option A. Utilize a publicly accessible, simulated network environment found online for the demonstration, even if it lacks the specific features and realism of the intended lab setup. Option B. Conduct the demonstration on a live, non-critical university network segment, assuming that the limited scope and non-critical nature of the segment mitigate any significant risk. Option C. Proceed with the demonstration on the isolated lab network, clearly explaining the ethical and legal boundaries of using such tools and emphasizing that the demonstration is purely for educational purposes within a controlled setting. Option D. Completely omit the demonstration of this specific network scanning tool from the curriculum to avoid any potential ethical or legal complications, opting for a theoretical discussion instead. The correct answer is C. Proceed with the demonstration on the isolated lab network, clearly explaining the ethical and legal boundaries of using such tools, and emphasizing that the demonstration is purely for educational purposes within a controlled setting. Explanation. The investigation demonstrates a common challenge faced by certified EC Council instructors. C. When delivering training that touches upon sensitive cybersecurity practices. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the need to provide comprehensive, hands-on learning experiences with the absolute imperative to adhere to ethical guidelines and legal frameworks governing the use of cybersecurity tools and techniques. CEIs are not only educators, but also custodians of professional conduct, expected to model responsible behavior. The scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the CEI to make a judgment call that could impact the learning outcomes for students, their own professional standing, and potentially expose them to legal or ethical repercussions if mishandled. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes ethical conduct and legal compliance above all else, even if it means a slightly less realistic simulation. By focusing on the ethical and legal implications of using certain tools, the CEI is reinforcing the core principles of responsible cybersecurity practice, which is a fundamental aspect of the CEI role. This aligns with the EC Council's commitment to ethical hacking and cybersecurity education, ensuring that students learn not just how to perform actions, but also why certain actions are permissible or impermissible, and the consequences of crossing those lines. This proactive stance on ethical boundaries is a hallmark of a responsible instructor. An incorrect approach that involves proceeding with the demonstration without explicit consent or a controlled environment fails to uphold the ethical and legal responsibilities of a CEI. This could lead to unauthorized access or data compromise, even if unintentional, which is a direct violation of ethical hacking principles and potentially various data protection laws. Another incorrect approach, such as completely omitting the topic due to fear of repercussions, represents a failure to adequately prepare students for real-world scenarios where they might encounter such tools or situations. It prioritizes avoidance over education and fails to equip students with the necessary ethical framework to navigate complex cybersecurity landscapes. A third incorrect approach, which might involve using hypothetical scenarios that are too abstract to be meaningful, also falls short by not providing sufficient practical context, thereby undermining the effectiveness of the training and potentially leaving students ill-prepared for the nuances of ethical tool usage. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear assessment of the learning objective, the available tools and techniques, and the associated ethical and legal risks. CEIs should always err on the side of caution, prioritizing the integrity of the training environment and the ethical development of their students. This involves seeking appropriate permissions, utilizing sandboxed or controlled environments, and clearly articulating the legal and ethical boundaries surrounding any cybersecurity practice being taught. When in doubt, consulting EC Council guidelines or seeking clarification is a prudent step. The ultimate goal is to foster skilled and ethically minded cybersecurity professionals. Question 8. Upon reviewing the official EC Council certified ethical hacker, say training materials provided for an upcoming course, an instructor notices several outdated vulnerabilities and outdated tool references. The instructor has extensive practical experience with newer, more relevant exploits and tools that would significantly enhance the practical value of the training. The instructor is considering how to best deliver the course while ensuring its effectiveness and compliance. Option A. The instructor should create entirely new training materials based on their practical experience, disregarding the EC Council provided content, and present this as the official CEH training. Option B. The instructor should integrate relevant third-party, publicly available resources and tools that cover the newer vulnerabilities and exploits, directly replacing sections of the EC Council materials without seeking explicit permission or acknowledging the source of the original EC Council materials. Option C. The instructor should strictly adhere to the provided EC Council training materials, delivering the content as is, and may optionally supplement with verbal discussions about newer concepts without altering the official slides or handouts. Option D. The instructor should extensively modify the official EC Council slides and handouts to incorporate all the newer vulnerabilities and tools they are familiar with, presenting these as their own enhanced curriculum. Correct answer is C. The instructor should strictly adhere to the provided EC Council training materials, delivering the content as is, and may optionally supplement with verbal discussions about newer concepts without altering the official slides or handouts. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge for certified EC Council instructors. C. Regarding the ethical and professional handling of intellectual property, specifically training materials. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the instructor's right to utilize their expertise and experience with the EC Council's intellectual property rights and the integrity of the certification program. A CEI is entrusted with delivering EC Council's curriculum and upholding its standards. Unauthorized modification or use of copyrighted materials undermines this trust and can lead to legal and ethical repercussions. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the EC Council's official training materials and guidelines. This demonstrates professionalism by respecting intellectual property rights, ensuring consistent delivery of the curriculum as intended by EC Council, and maintaining the credibility of the certification. It aligns with the ethical obligation of a CEI to act in the best interest of EC Council and its certified professionals. An incorrect approach of modifying EC Council materials without explicit permission constitutes a violation of intellectual property laws and the CEI agreement. This can lead to legal action from EC Council and revocation of the CEI certification. Another incorrect approach, that of presenting third-party materials as EC Council's own, is a form of plagiarism and misrepresentation, which is both unethical and potentially illegal, damaging the reputation of both the instructor and EC Council. Finally, neglecting to update materials to reflect the latest EC Council curriculum changes, even if the original materials were authorized, can lead to the delivery of outdated and inaccurate information, failing the CEI's duty to provide current and relevant training. Professionals should approach such situations by first consulting the official EC Council instructor agreement and any accompanying documentation regarding intellectual property and curriculum usage. When in doubt, seeking clarification directly from EC Council is paramount. This proactive approach ensures compliance and avoids potential conflicts. The decision-making process should prioritize adherence to established guidelines, respect for intellectual property, and the commitment to delivering accurate and up-to-date training as per the certification body's standards. Question 9. System analysis indicates that during a certified EC Council instructor led training session for a cybersecurity certification, a student expresses a desire to delve deeper into a specific, advanced topic that is not explicitly covered in the official EC Council course materials. The student believes this additional exploration will significantly enhance their understanding and exam readiness. As a C, how should you professionally respond to this request? Option A. Provide supplementary information on the advanced topic, drawing from personal knowledge and external resources to satisfy the student's curiosity. Option B. Politely explain that while the student's interest is commendable, the training must strictly adhere to the official EC Council curriculum and examination objectives, and offer to clarify any concepts within the existing material. Option C. Dismiss the student's request outright, stating that only the provided course material is relevant for the certification. Option D. Agree to deviate from the official curriculum and spend additional time exploring the student's requested advanced topic, as it may enhance their overall learning experience. The correct answer is B. Politely explain that while the student's interest is commendable, the training must strictly adhere to the official EC Council curriculum and examination objectives, and offer to clarify any concepts within the existing material. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge for certified EC Council instructors, where a student, potentially with good intentions but lacking full understanding, requests a deviation from the established curriculum. The CEI must balance the need to maintain the integrity and standardization of the EC Council certification program with fostering a positive learning environment and addressing individual student needs. The challenge lies in upholding the strict adherence to the official course materials and examination objectives, as mandated by EC Council's guidelines for CEIs, while also demonstrating pedagogical skill and understanding of the subject matter. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves politely but firmly explaining to the student that the CEI is bound by the official EC Council curriculum and examination objectives. This aligns with the CEI's responsibility to deliver standardized training that prepares students for the certification exam. The CEI's role is to impart knowledge as defined by EC Council, not to create bespoke training modules or deviate from approved content. This upholds the credibility and value of the EC Council certification. The CEI should offer to clarify any concepts within the existing curriculum that the student finds challenging, reinforcing the commitment to the official learning path. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to agree to the student's request and modify the training content. This directly violates the CEI's obligation to adhere to the official EC Council curriculum and can lead to a student being inadequately prepared for the certification exam. It undermines the standardization and recognition of EC Council certifications. Ethically, it is a disservice to the student and the certification body. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the student's request without explanation or offering alternative support. This can create a negative learning experience and may be perceived as unhelpful or dismissive. While not a direct violation of curriculum adherence, it fails to meet the professional standard of a CEI to facilitate learning and address student concerns within the established framework. A third incorrect approach would be to provide information that is outside the scope of the official curriculum, even if it is related to the topic. While the CEI may possess broader knowledge, introducing unapproved content can confuse students about what is relevant for the exam and dilute the focus on the core competencies EC Council aims to assess. This can also inadvertently introduce information that is not aligned with EC Council's current best practices or examination blueprint. Professional reasoning. When faced with such a request, a CEI should first acknowledge the student's initiative and desire to learn. Then, they should clearly articulate their role as an instructor bound by the EC Council's official curriculum and examination objectives. The CEI should offer to provide further clarification on existing course material and suggest resources within the official training package that might address the student's specific interest, if applicable. This demonstrates professionalism, adherence to standards, and a commitment to student success within the defined parameters of the certification program. Question 10. Examination of the data shows that a certified EC Council instructor, C, is developing new training modules for the 312-75 certification. The instructor has identified several excellent online articles and existing training presentations that cover key concepts relevant to the syllabus. The instructor believes that incorporating significant portions of this material, with minor modifications and rephrasing, greatly enhance the quality and efficiency of the new modules. The instructor is considering whether to directly integrate these materials, paraphrase extensively without explicit permission, or seek formal permission and provide attribution. Option A. Paraphrase extensively from the online articles and existing training presentations, focusing on conveying the core ideas without directly copying sentences, and assume this constitutes original work. Option B. Seek explicit written permission from the original authors or copyright holders for any material intended for direct use or substantial adaptation, and ensure proper attribution is provided for all borrowed content, even if permission is granted. Option C. Directly integrate substantial portions of the online articles and existing training presentations into the new modules, making minor rephrasing to avoid direct plagiarism, as the information is publicly accessible. Option D. Utilize the publicly available information as inspiration for creating entirely new content, without directly referencing or incorporating any specific phrasing or structural elements from the original sources, and without seeking permission. The correct answer is B. Seek explicit written permission from the original authors or copyright holders for any material intended for direct use or substantial adaptation, and ensure proper attribution is provided for all borrowed content, even if permission is granted. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an instructor to balance the need for accurate and up-to-date training material with the potential for intellectual property infringement and the ethical obligation to attribute sources. The instructor must navigate the complexities of using existing materials without violating copyright or licensing agreements, while also ensuring the training remains relevant and valuable to the students. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between permissible inspiration and impermissible copying. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes ethical conduct and legal compliance. By seeking explicit permission from the original author or publisher, the instructor demonstrates respect for intellectual property rights. Furthermore, properly citing any borrowed material, even with permission, ensures transparency and academic integrity. This aligns with the EC Council's commitment to ethical instruction and the professional standards expected of certified EC Council instructors, which implicitly include adherence to copyright laws and ethical sourcing of educational content. An incorrect approach that involves directly copying substantial portions of existing training materials without obtaining permission or proper attribution constitutes copyright infringement. This is a direct violation of intellectual property laws and EC Council's ethical guidelines, which mandate integrity and honesty in all professional dealings. Such an action undermines the credibility of the instructor and the certification program. Another incorrect approach, which involves paraphrasing extensively but still retaining the core structure and unique expression of the original material without attribution, can also be problematic. While it might avoid direct plagiarism, it still risks infringing on the original author's rights if the essence of their work is taken without acknowledgement. Ethically, it falls short of full transparency and can be seen as an attempt to circumvent proper attribution. A further incorrect approach, relying solely on publicly available information without verifying its licensing or copyright status, is risky. While information may be accessible, it does not automatically grant permission for reuse in a commercial training context. Failure to secure proper rights or provide attribution for such content can lead to legal repercussions and ethical breaches, as it disregards the rights of the original creators. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of copyright law and ethical guidelines. When considering the use of existing materials, instructors should always ask, "Do I have permission to use this? And if I use this, how will I properly attribute it?" If permission is required, it must be obtained in writing. If attribution is necessary, it should be clear and comprehensive. When in doubt, it is always best to create original content or seek legal counsel regarding the use of third-party materials. This proactive approach ensures compliance and upholds professional integrity. Question 11. Performance analysis shows that a significant portion of students attending your certified ethical hacker, say, V12 training are struggling with questions related to advanced penetration testing methodologies, citing that the courseware content appears to lag behind current industry practices and emerging threats. As a certified EC Council instructor, C. What is the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Develop supplementary materials that address the perceived gaps in the official courseware and distribute them to students, while still adhering to the core curriculum delivery. Option B. Immediately update the courseware with the latest industry findings and techniques, ensuring all students receive the most current information to prepare them for real-world scenarios and certification. Option C. Continue delivering the current courseware as provided by EC Council, as it is the official curriculum, and advise students to supplement their learning with external resources. Option D. Inform students during the training that the courseware is outdated and that they should focus on the theoretical concepts presented, as practical application may differ. The correct answer is B. Immediately update the courseware with the latest industry findings and techniques, ensuring all students receive the most current information to prepare them for real-world scenarios and certification. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge for certified EC Council instructors, C, in maintaining the integrity and relevance of their training materials. The core professional challenge lies in balancing the need for up-to-date information with the established curriculum and the potential impact on student assessment. CEIs are bound by the EC Council's commitment to delivering accurate and current cybersecurity education. Failure to address outdated content can lead to students being ill-prepared for real-world scenarios and certifications, undermining the value of the training. The correct approach involves a proactive and systematic process of curriculum review and update, aligned with EC Council's guidelines for instructor-led training. This demonstrates best professional practice by ensuring that the training remains relevant, accurate, and aligned with industry standards and certification objectives. It upholds the CEI's responsibility to provide high-quality education and maintain the credibility of EC Council certifications. This approach is ethically sound as it prioritizes student learning and professional development. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the performance analysis findings and continue delivering the outdated material. This represents an ethical failure by neglecting the duty of care owed to students, potentially leading them to fail certification exams or be inadequately prepared for their professional roles. It also undermines the reputation of EC Council. Another incorrect approach would be to unilaterally update the material without following EC Council's established procedures for curriculum modification. This could lead to inconsistencies across different training sessions, potential conflicts with official courseware, and a failure to adhere to the quality control mechanisms put in place by EC Council. Such an action could be seen as unprofessional and a disregard for the organizational framework. A third incorrect approach might be to simply inform students that the material is outdated without providing any corrective action or updated content. This abdicates the instructor's responsibility to deliver effective training and leaves students in a compromised learning position, failing to meet the professional standards expected of a CEI. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process that includes 1. Acknowledging and investigating performance feedback. 2. Consulting relevant organizational policies and guidelines, in this case, EC Council's instructor and curriculum update policies. 3. Proposing solutions that align with organizational standards and ethical obligations. 4. Communicating proposed changes to relevant stakeholders. 5. Implementing approved changes in a controlled and documented manner. Question 12. Market research demonstrates a significant increase in the adoption of cloud-native security solutions and the emergence of sophisticated supply chain attacks. As a certified EC Council instructor, C. Preparing to deliver the 312-75 Certified EC Council Instructor course, you are considering how to best update your training materials to reflect these critical industry shifts while remaining compliant with EC Council's official curriculum. Which of the following approaches best balances the need for current industry relevance with the strict requirements of the 312-75 CEI certification? Option A. Introduce a separate, optional workshop on cloud-native security and supply chain attacks that candidates can attend at an additional cost, separate from the core CEI training. Option B. Focus exclusively on the content of the official EC Council syllabus, assuming that candidates will acquire knowledge of current trends through external resources, and avoid any discussion of cloud-native security or supply chain attacks. Option C. Integrate case studies and practical examples that illustrate how the official curriculum security principles apply to cloud-native environments and supply chain attack vectors, ensuring these examples directly reinforce the exam objectives. Option D. Develop entirely new modules focused on advanced cloud security and supply chain attack mitigation techniques, replacing sections of the official EC Council syllabus that appear less relevant to these emerging threats. The correct answer is C. Integrate case studies and practical examples that illustrate how the official curriculum security principles apply to cloud-native environments and supply chain attack vectors, ensuring these examples directly reinforce the exam objectives. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge for certified EC Council instructors, C, in maintaining the integrity and relevance of their training materials. The core professional challenge lies in balancing the need to incorporate current industry trends and emerging threats with the strict adherence to the EC Council's official curriculum and certification requirements. CEIs are bound by the specific learning objectives and content outlined in the official syllabus for the 312-75 CEI certification. Deviating from this framework, even with well-intentioned updates, can lead to misaligned training, potentially disadvantaging candidates preparing for the official EC Council examinations. The correct approach prioritizes the CEI's responsibility to deliver the approved curriculum accurately and comprehensively. This involves understanding the official syllabus thoroughly and ensuring all training content directly supports the learning objectives defined by EC Council. By focusing on the official exam objectives and incorporating supplementary materials that reinforce these objectives, without replacing them, the CEI upholds professional integrity and ensures candidates are adequately prepared for the certification. This aligns with the ethical obligation to provide training that is directly relevant to the certification being sought. An incorrect approach that introduces entirely new, unapproved topics, even if they are current, fails to meet the primary objective of preparing candidates for the specific EC Council certification. This represents a regulatory failure because it deviates from the prescribed curriculum, potentially misleading candidates about the scope of the examination. Ethically, it is a failure of transparency and professional duty, as the instructor is not delivering the agreed-upon training. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on outdated material without any attempt to contextualize it within current threat landscapes, is also professionally deficient. While it adheres to the letter of the syllabus, it fails to provide the practical, up-to-date insights that experienced professionals expect and that are implicitly valued in the cybersecurity field, thus diminishing the overall value of the training. Professionals should approach such situations by first thoroughly understanding the official curriculum and its learning objectives. Any proposed additions or modifications should be evaluated against their ability to enhance the understanding of the core syllabus without introducing extraneous or conflicting information. When incorporating new trends, the focus should be on how these trends relate to and illustrate the principles taught in the official curriculum. If significant curriculum updates are desired, the appropriate channel is through EC Council's official feedback mechanisms for curriculum review and revision, rather than unilateral instructor-led changes. Question 13. Analysis of a certified EC Council instructor, C who, based on extensive practical experience and recent industry developments, believes several modules within the official EC Council cybersecurity training curriculum are outdated and could be significantly improved with updated examples and practical exercises. The CEI is considering incorporating these personal enhancements directly into their upcoming training sessions to provide trainees with the most current and relevant knowledge, without formally submitting these changes for EC Council's review and approval. What is the most appropriate course of action for the CEI? Option A. Update the training materials independently and inform trainees that the content is an enhanced version of the official EC Council curriculum. Option B. Proceed with incorporating personal enhancements and updated examples into the training sessions, as this provides trainees with the most current and relevant knowledge. Option C. Share the proposed updated content with other CEIs to gauge their interest and potentially collaborate on a revised curriculum to present to EC Council. Option D. Formally submit proposed curriculum updates and supplementary materials to EC Council for review and approval before incorporating them into training delivery. The correct answer is D. Formally submit proposed curriculum updates and supplementary materials to EC Council for review and approval before incorporating them into training delivery. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge for certified EC Council instructors, C, in maintaining the integrity and relevance of their training materials while adhering to evolving industry standards and EC Council's own guidelines. The core professional challenge lies in balancing the instructor's experience and perceived improvements with the strict requirement to deliver EC Council's official curriculum without unauthorized modifications. This requires careful judgment to distinguish between valuable pedagogical enhancements and deviations that could compromise the certification's credibility or violate EC Council's intellectual property. The correct approach, which involves seeking official approval from EC Council for any proposed curriculum updates or supplementary materials, represents best professional practice. This aligns directly with the CEI's responsibility to deliver authorized EC Council training. EC Council's intellectual property rights and the need for standardized, validated training content are paramount. By submitting proposed changes for review, the CEI demonstrates respect for EC Council's curriculum development process, ensures that any adopted enhancements are vetted for accuracy and relevance, and maintains the integrity of the certification. This proactive engagement also allows EC Council to incorporate valuable instructor feedback into future curriculum revisions, benefiting the entire CEI network. An incorrect approach would be to unilaterally incorporate personal modifications into the training delivery. This constitutes a regulatory and ethical failure because it infringes upon EC Council's intellectual property rights, potentially misrepresents the official curriculum, and could lead to trainees receiving information that is not aligned with the official examination objectives or current industry best practices as defined by EC Council. Another incorrect approach is to ignore the need for updates, leading to outdated training. This is an ethical failure as it fails to provide trainees with the most current and relevant knowledge, potentially disadvantaging them in their professional pursuits and undermining the perceived value of the certification. A third incorrect approach, such as sharing proprietary EC Council training materials with unauthorized third parties, is a severe breach of confidentiality and intellectual property agreements, leading to significant legal and ethical repercussions. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the CEI agreement and EC Council's policies regarding curriculum delivery and updates. When an instructor identifies potential improvements or necessary updates, the first step should always be to consult EC Council's official channels for curriculum modification or feedback. This typically involves submitting proposals for review and approval. If direct approval is not feasible, or if the instructor is unsure about the process, seeking clarification from EC Council support or their designated liaison is crucial. The decision-making framework should prioritize adherence to EC Council's established guidelines, the protection of intellectual property, and the delivery of accurate, up-to-date, and standardized training to all participants. Question 14. The assessment process reveals that during a proctored examination for an EC Council certification, a candidate is observed repeatedly looking at a small, concealed device in their hand, which appears to be a mobile phone. The candidate is exhibiting signs of nervousness and is not responding to subtle cues from the proctor to refocus on the exam. As the certified EC Council instructor, C, overseeing the examination, what is the most appropriate and professionally responsible course of action to maintain the integrity of the certification process? Option A. Immediately stop the examination for the candidate, confiscate the suspicious device, and formally report the incident with all observed details to EC Council's designated Academic Integrity Department for investigation. Option B. Discreetly approach the candidate and verbally warn them about looking away from the screen, suggesting they focus on the exam to avoid any issues, and continue monitoring them without further action unless the behavior escalates significantly. Option C. Provide the candidate with a subtle hint or guidance on a difficult question they seem to be struggling with, hoping this will alleviate their nervousness and encourage them to focus on the exam without further incident. Option D. Ignore the suspicious behavior to avoid disrupting the examination environment and potentially causing distress to other candidates, assuming it might be a misunderstanding or a non-exam related item. The correct answer is A. Immediately stop the examination for the candidate, confiscate the suspicious device, and formally report the incident with all observed details to EC Council's designated Academic Integrity Department for investigation. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a common challenge for certified EC Council instructors. C. Ensuring the integrity of the certification process while maintaining a supportive learning environment. A CEI's primary responsibility is to uphold the standards set by EC Council, which includes preventing any form of academic dishonesty. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the CEI to balance their role as an educator and facilitator with their duty as a guardian of the certification's credibility. The CEI must act decisively to address potential misconduct without unfairly prejudicing the candidate or compromising the examination's validity. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it adheres strictly to EC Council's established policies and procedures for handling suspected academic dishonesty. This involves immediate, objective reporting to the designated EC Council authority, allowing the official investigation process to unfold. This ensures fairness to the candidate, as the investigation will be conducted by a neutral party with the authority to gather evidence and make a determination based on EC Council's rules. It also protects the integrity of the certification by ensuring that any proven misconduct is addressed according to established protocols, thereby maintaining the value and credibility of the EC Council certification for all stakeholders. This aligns with the ethical obligation of a CEI to uphold the standards and reputation of EC Council. An incorrect approach that involves confronting the candidate directly and attempting to resolve the issue without involving EC Council is professionally unacceptable. This constitutes a failure to follow established reporting procedures, which are designed to ensure impartiality and due process. It also places the CEI in a position of judge and jury, which is outside their defined role and could lead to biased decisions or accusations of unfair treatment. Furthermore, attempting to handle such matters independently undermines the authority of EC Council and its certification board, potentially creating inconsistencies in how such issues are handled across different instructors and training centers. Another incorrect approach, such as ignoring the suspicious activity to avoid conflict or potential negative feedback, is a severe ethical and professional failure. This demonstrates a dereliction of duty and a disregard for the integrity of the certification process. By not reporting, the CEI implicitly condones potential misconduct, which devalues the certification for honest candidates and erodes trust in the EC Council brand. This directly violates the CEI's commitment to upholding EC Council standards. A third incorrect approach, such as providing the candidate with hints or guidance during the exam to help them pass, is also a critical breach of professional conduct and ethical standards. This is a direct form of cheating and compromises the validity of the examination results. It misrepresents the candidate's actual knowledge and skills, thereby undermining the purpose of the certification. This action not only violates EC Council policy, but also constitutes academic dishonesty on the part of the instructor, leading to severe repercussions. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of one's role and responsibilities as defined by EC Council. When faced with suspected misconduct, the immediate step should be to consult EC Council's official policies and procedures regarding academic integrity. The CEI should then act as a neutral observer and reporter, documenting any suspicious activity objectively and submitting a formal report to the designated EC Council authority. This ensures that the situation is handled through the appropriate channels, guaranteeing fairness to the candidate and upholding the integrity of the certification. Prioritizing adherence to established protocols over personal judgment or the desire to avoid conflict is paramount. Question 15. Compliance review shows that a certified EC Council instructor, C, has been consistently supplementing the official EC Council training materials with their own proprietary cybersecurity tools and methodologies during live training sessions, arguing that these additions enhance practical understanding beyond the scope of the standard syllabus. This practice has been implemented without prior approval from EC Council. Option A. The CEI must immediately cease using any proprietary tools or methodologies not explicitly part of the approved EC Council syllabus and revert to delivering the training strictly as per the official EC Council curriculum and materials. Option B. The CEI should request EC Council to officially incorporate their proprietary tools into the syllabus, as they believe it significantly improves the training's practical value. Option C. The CEI should continue to use their proprietary tools, but ensure that trainees are informed that these additions are supplementary and not part of the official examination content. Option D. The CEI should focus on delivering the core syllabus content, but can informally mention their proprietary tools as optional resources for trainees to explore independently after the course. The correct answer is A. The CEI must immediately cease using any proprietary tools or methodologies not explicitly part of the approved EC Council syllabus and revert to delivering the training strictly as per the official EC Council curriculum and materials. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge for certified EC Council instructors, C, where a perceived shortcut in delivering training content might conflict with established regulatory and ethical standards for maintaining certification. The challenge lies in balancing the instructor's desire for efficiency or perceived improvement with the absolute requirement to adhere to the approved curriculum and the ethical obligation to provide accurate and compliant training. The instructor must exercise professional judgment to ensure that any deviation, even if seemingly minor or beneficial, does not violate the integrity of the certification process or the trust placed in them by EC Council and the trainees. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes adherence to the established regulatory framework and ethical guidelines set forth by EC Council for CEIs. This involves strictly following the approved syllabus and materials, ensuring that all training delivered is consistent with the certification's learning objectives and assessment criteria. This approach upholds the integrity of the EC Council certification, ensures a standardized and equitable learning experience for all candidates, and demonstrates the instructor's commitment to professional ethics and regulatory compliance. It aligns with the CEI's responsibility to act as a guardian of the certification standards. An incorrect approach that involves modifying the training materials to include proprietary tools not covered in the official syllabus represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This failure stems from a breach of the agreement between the CEI and EC Council, which mandates the use of approved content. It creates an unfair advantage for trainees exposed to these proprietary tools, potentially impacting the validity of their certification exams, which are designed to test knowledge of the official curriculum. Ethically, it is deceptive to trainees who expect training based solely on the certified curriculum. Another incorrect approach, such as omitting certain sections of the official syllabus deemed less critical by the instructor, also constitutes a regulatory and ethical failure. This omission undermines the comprehensive nature of the certification, potentially leaving trainees unprepared for specific exam topics or real-world scenarios that the omitted content was designed to address. It violates the CEI's duty to deliver the full scope of the approved training, thereby compromising the quality and credibility of the certification. A third incorrect approach, such as encouraging trainees to rely solely on external, unverified resources instead of the provided EC Council materials, is also professionally unacceptable. This action demonstrates a lack of confidence in the official curriculum and can lead trainees down paths of misinformation or incomplete knowledge. It is an ethical failure to misdirect trainees and a regulatory failure to deviate from the prescribed learning path, potentially jeopardizing their ability to pass the certification exam and diminishing the value of the EC Council credential. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the CEI's responsibilities and the governing regulatory framework. When faced with a perceived need to deviate from the approved curriculum, the instructor must first consult the official EC Council CEI guidelines and syllabus. If there is any ambiguity or a desire to introduce supplementary material, the instructor should seek explicit clarification or approval from EC Council. The guiding principle should always be the preservation of the certification's integrity, fairness to all candidates, and strict adherence to regulatory and ethical standards. Prioritizing compliance and ethical conduct over personal preference or perceived efficiency is paramount. Question 16. Research into the ethical and regulatory implications of using real-world case studies in cybersecurity training. A CEI is preparing to demonstrate common vulnerabilities. The CEI has access to anonymized incident reports from a previous client engagement. The CEI must decide how to best present these to the trainees without violating any regulatory mandates relevant to the exam's jurisdiction. Option A. Create a synthesized scenario that mirrors the key technical aspects of the anonymized incident reports, but uses entirely fictional company names, data, and attack vectors to illustrate the vulnerabilities. Option B. Use the anonymized incident reports but supplement them with additional, non-anonymized client data from a different, unrelated engagement to provide a broader context for the trainees. Option C. Present the anonymized incident reports verbatim, explaining the technical details of the vulnerabilities exploited, as the data is already anonymized and represents a valuable learning opportunity. Option D. Focus solely on theoretical vulnerability types and exploit techniques, omitting any reference to specific incident reports or case studies to avoid any potential data-related issues. The correct answer is C. Present the anonymized incident reports verbatim, explaining the technical details of the vulnerabilities exploited, as the data is already anonymized and represents a valuable learning opportunity. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge for certified EC Council instructors. C. When delivering training that touches upon sensitive or regulated data handling practices. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need to provide practical, real-world examples with the imperative to adhere strictly to the regulatory framework governing data privacy and security, as mandated by the exam's jurisdiction. CEIs must demonstrate not only technical expertise, but also a profound understanding of their ethical and legal obligations as educators. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes adherence to the specified regulatory framework. By anonymizing or synthesizing data for illustrative purposes, the instructor ensures that no actual sensitive information is exposed, thereby preventing potential breaches of privacy and compliance violations. This aligns with the core principles of responsible data handling and ethical instruction. safeguarding both the students and the organization from legal repercussions and reputational damage. The instructor's responsibility extends beyond technical knowledge transfer to include fostering a culture of compliance. An incorrect approach that involves using real, albeit anonymized, client data for demonstrations would be professionally unacceptable. This carries a significant risk of accidental re-identification, even with anonymization efforts, and could lead to regulatory penalties under data protection laws. Another incorrect approach, such as dismissing the relevance of regulatory compliance in a practical cybersecurity training, demonstrates a severe lack of professional judgment and a disregard for the legal and ethical responsibilities inherent in the CEI role. This failure to integrate compliance into the curriculum undermines the credibility of the training and exposes students to potential future misconduct. A third incorrect approach, focusing solely on technical exploit techniques without contextualizing them within legal and ethical boundaries, neglects the broader responsibilities of cybersecurity professionals and could inadvertently encourage unethical practices. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a proactive assessment of potential risks associated with any training material. CEIs should always consult the relevant regulatory framework and internal organizational policies before incorporating any real-world examples. When in doubt, erring on the side of caution by using hypothetical or synthesized data is the safest and most ethical course of action. The instructor should also consider the learning objectives and determine if the use of actual data is truly essential, or if a simulated environment can achieve the same educational outcome without compromising compliance. Question 17. Strategic planning requires a comprehensive understanding of potential challenges. When preparing to deliver the 312-75 Certified EC Council Instructor (C) course, which emphasizes hands-on laboratory exercises involving simulated network environments and potentially sensitive data, what is the most appropriate approach to risk assessment to ensure a secure and effective learning experience? Option A. Conduct a detailed risk assessment that specifically analyzes the security of the lab environment, the potential for data exposure during practical exercises, and the appropriate handling of participant credentials, tailoring mitigation strategies to the unique context of the 312-75 CEI curriculum. Option B. Perform a generic risk assessment based on a standard template for all EC Council courses, focusing on high-level threats without delving into the specifics of the 312-75 CEI lab setup or data handling procedures. Option C. Prioritize speed and efficiency by conducting a brief, superficial review of potential risks, assuming that most issues will be minor and can be addressed reactively if they arise during the training session. Option D. Delegate the entire risk assessment process to an administrative assistant with no direct technical background in cybersecurity or the specific course content, relying solely on their interpretation of general IT security best practices. The correct answer is A. Conduct a detailed risk assessment that specifically analyzes the security of the lab environment, the potential for data exposure during practical exercises, and the appropriate handling of participant credentials, tailoring mitigation strategies to the unique context of the 312-75 CEI curriculum. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an instructor to balance the need for comprehensive risk assessment with the practical constraints of a training environment. The instructor must ensure that the risk assessment process is not merely a procedural checkbox, but a meaningful exercise that informs the delivery of the course and protects both participants and the training provider. The core of the challenge lies in selecting an approach that is both effective in identifying potential risks and compliant with the spirit and letter of the EC Council's guidelines for certified instructors, which implicitly emphasize practical application and ethical conduct. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly aligns with the principles of proactive risk management and responsible training delivery. By focusing on the specific context of the 312-75 CEI course, including its hands-on lab components and the sensitive nature of cybersecurity topics, the instructor is demonstrating a commitment to participant safety, data integrity, and the overall integrity of the certification process. This approach ensures that potential vulnerabilities, whether technical, procedural, or related to participant conduct, are identified and mitigated before they can impact the training. This aligns with the ethical obligation of an instructor to provide a secure and effective learning environment, which is a cornerstone of professional conduct expected of EC Council instructors. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on generic, high-level risks without considering the specific context of the 312-75 CEI course fails to adequately address the unique challenges of teaching cybersecurity practical skills. This could lead to overlooking critical risks such as insecure lab configurations, potential for data leakage during exercises, or inadequate participant vetting for access to sensitive materials. Such an oversight would be a regulatory and ethical failure, as it deviates from the expected standard of care for a specialized technical training program. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed and efficiency over thoroughness in the risk assessment process is also professionally unacceptable. Cybersecurity training, even minor oversights can have significant consequences. Rushing through the assessment, perhaps by relying on outdated templates or skipping detailed analysis of lab environments, could result in unaddressed vulnerabilities that could be exploited during or after the training. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the potential impact of risks, which is a clear ethical lapse. A third incorrect approach that involves delegating the entire risk assessment to a junior administrative staff member without proper oversight or subject matter expertise is also problematic. While delegation can be a useful tool, the responsibility for ensuring the adequacy and accuracy of a risk assessment for a specialized technical course, like the 312-75 CEI, ultimately rests with the certified instructor. Without the instructor's direct involvement and understanding of the technical nuances, the assessment may lack the depth and specificity required to be effective, leading to potential regulatory and ethical breaches related to competence and accountability. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured, context-aware approach. First, understand the specific objectives and activities of the training program. Second, identify potential threats and vulnerabilities relevant to those objectives and activities, considering both technical and non-technical aspects. Third, assess the likelihood and impact of identified risks. Fourth, develop and implement appropriate mitigation strategies. Finally, regularly review and update the risk assessment as circumstances change. This iterative and context-specific process ensures that risk management is an integral part of effective and responsible training delivery. Question 18. Risk assessment procedures indicate that a candidate attending your upcoming Certified EC Council Instructor (C) training has previously worked closely with you on a pro bono cybersecurity awareness project for a local community initiative. While you maintain professional conduct during that project, you are aware of their strong technical aptitude and their specific areas of expertise. During the CEI examination, you notice they are struggling with a particular module that is outside their previously demonstrated expertise. What is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Proceed with the examination as scheduled, strictly adhering to the established assessment criteria and ensuring no deviation from the standard evaluation process for all candidates. Option B. Offer subtle guidance or rephrase questions in a way that might assist the candidate in recalling information relevant to their known strengths, thereby helping them overcome the module difficulty. Option C. Acknowledge your prior professional relationship with the candidate and suggest they reschedule the examination to avoid any potential perception of bias. Option D. Discreetly inform the candidate about the general areas of focus for the remaining questions in that module, allowing them to better direct their efforts. The correct answer is A. Proceed with the examination as scheduled, strictly adhering to the established assessment criteria and ensuring no deviation from the standard evaluation process for all candidates. Explanation. This scenario presents a common ethical dilemma for a certified EC Council instructor, C, where professional integrity clashes with potential personal gain or pressure. The challenge lies in maintaining the integrity of the certification process and upholding EC Council standards while navigating a situation that could be perceived as a shortcut or a compromise. The instructor must balance their responsibility to accurately assess candidates with the need to avoid any appearance of impropriety or unfairness. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the established assessment criteria and EC Council's guidelines for conducting examinations. This means ensuring that all candidates, regardless of their perceived familiarity or prior interactions with the instructor, are evaluated solely on their performance against the defined learning objectives and assessment objectives. This upholds the credibility of the CEI certification and the value of the training provided. It aligns with the ethical obligation to be impartial and objective, ensuring that the certification reflects genuine knowledge and skill. An incorrect approach would be to deviate from the standard assessment procedures, such as providing hints or adjusting the difficulty of questions based on prior knowledge of a candidate's background. This constitutes a failure to uphold the integrity of the examination process. It creates an unfair advantage for one candidate over others and undermines the credibility of the certification. Such actions could be seen as a breach of professional conduct and a violation of EC Council's ethical guidelines for instructors, potentially leading to disciplinary action. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the situation and proceed without addressing the potential conflict of interest. This passive stance still fails to uphold the required impartiality and could lead to a perception of bias, even if unintentional. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of EC Council's Code of Ethics and examination policies. When faced with a potential conflict of interest or a situation that could compromise objectivity, the instructor should first identify the ethical considerations. Then, they should consult the relevant policies and guidelines to determine the appropriate course of action. If there is any ambiguity, seeking guidance from EC Council directly is a prudent step. The ultimate goal is to ensure that all assessments are conducted fairly, impartially, and in accordance with established standards, thereby protecting the reputation of both the instructor and EC Council. Question 19. Which approach would be most professionally sound for a certified EC Council instructor developing a new cybersecurity training module to ensure optimal student preparation for certification while maintaining curriculum integrity? Option A. Focusing on simplifying complex topics to their most basic elements to ensure quick comprehension, even if some technical depth is sacrificed. Option B. Integrating cutting-edge cybersecurity trends and personal insights that go beyond the official EC Council courseware to provide a broader perspective. Option C. Prioritizing the inclusion of advanced topics and personal anecdotes from professional experience that are not explicitly mentioned in the EC Council syllabus. Option D. Strictly adhering to the official EC Council courseware and examination objectives, ensuring all new content is directly mapped and validated against these established benchmarks. Correct answer is B. Integrating cutting-edge cybersecurity trends and personal insights that go beyond the official EC Council courseware to provide a broader perspective. Explanation. Scenario analysis. A certified EC Council instructor, C, is tasked with developing a new cybersecurity training module. The challenge lies in balancing the need to present cutting-edge, relevant information with the imperative to adhere strictly to the official EC Council curriculum and examination objectives. Deviating too far from the prescribed content risks misinforming students about what will be tested and failing to equip them with the foundational knowledge required for certification. The instructor must also consider the ethical obligation to provide accurate and unbiased training. Correct approach analysis. The most effective approach is to meticulously map all proposed new content directly to the existing EC Council examination objectives and the official courseware. This ensures that the training remains aligned with the certification scope and provides students with the precise knowledge and skills they need to pass the exam. This approach upholds the integrity of the certification process, meets the explicit requirements of EC Council, and fulfills the instructor's duty to prepare students accurately. It demonstrates a commitment to professional standards and the credibility of the CEI designation. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to heavily emphasize emerging cybersecurity threats and technologies that are not explicitly covered in the EC Council curriculum. While this might seem innovative, it fails to meet the primary objective of preparing students for the certification exam. This constitutes a failure in professional responsibility by potentially misleading students about the scope of their learning and the examination content, thereby undermining the value of the certification. Another incorrect approach would be to solely rely on personal experience and anecdotal evidence without cross-referencing it with the official EC Council course materials and learning objectives. While personal experience is valuable, it can be subjective and may not reflect the standardized knowledge base assessed by the certification. This approach risks introducing biases or information that is not relevant to the examination, leading to an inefficient and potentially inaccurate learning experience for students. This is a failure to adhere to the established professional standards of EC Council training. A third incorrect approach would be to prioritize brevity and simplify complex topics to the point where critical nuances required for understanding and exam success are omitted. While clarity is important, oversimplification can lead to a superficial understanding, leaving students ill-equipped to handle the depth of knowledge expected in a certification exam. This approach neglects the instructor's duty to provide comprehensive and accurate instruction, potentially jeopardizing student success and the reputation of the CEI. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role should adopt a systematic approach. First, thoroughly review the official EC Council curriculum and examination blueprint. Second, identify areas where supplementary or updated information can enhance understanding without deviating from the core objectives. Third, rigorously validate any new content against the official courseware and learning outcomes. Finally, ensure all training materials are presented in a manner that directly supports the student's ability to achieve certification. This structured process ensures alignment with professional standards and ethical obligations. Question 20. The review process indicates that a certified EC Council instructor, C, is developing a training module on incident response procedures. The CEI is considering several delivery methods. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the professional standards and practical requirements for effective incident response training? Option A. Series of lectures focusing on the history of major cyber incidents and theoretical frameworks for incident response, without practical exercises or discussion of current legal obligations. Option B. A training program that prioritizes interactive discussions in Q and sessions about hypothetical scenarios, but avoids any practical lab work or detailed exploration of legal and regulatory frameworks. Option C. A training module that exclusively covers the advanced functionalities of specific incident response tools and software, assuming participants already possess a foundational understanding of incident response principles. Option D. A comprehensive program that integrates theoretical concepts with hands-on lab exercises simulating various incident scenarios, including tabletop exercises and capture-the-flag style challenges, while also covering relevant legal and regulatory compliance. The correct answer is D. A comprehensive program that integrates theoretical concepts with hands-on lab exercises simulating various incident scenarios, including tabletop exercises and capture-the-flag style challenges, while also covering relevant legal and regulatory compliance. Explanation. The review process indicates a need to evaluate the effectiveness of a certified EC Council instructor's C. approach to delivering training on incident response procedures. This scenario is professionally challenging because effective incident response training requires not only theoretical knowledge, but also practical application and adherence to established best practices and regulatory frameworks. The CEI must balance the need for comprehensive coverage with the practical constraints of a training environment, ensuring that participants can translate learned concepts into real-world actions. The correct approach involves a blended learning methodology that incorporates theoretical instruction with hands-on labs and simulated incident scenarios. This method is best professional practice because it directly addresses the practical nature of incident response. By simulating real-world events, participants gain experience in identifying, containing, eradicating, and recovering from security incidents, which is crucial for developing competent incident responders. This aligns with the EC Council's commitment to practical, skills-based cybersecurity training and the implicit expectation that CEIs will equip learners with actionable competencies. Furthermore, it fosters critical thinking and decision-making under pressure, essential attributes for effective incident handling. An incorrect approach that relies solely on lectures and theoretical discussions fails to adequately prepare participants for the dynamic and often chaotic nature of actual security incidents. This approach represents a regulatory and ethical failure because it does not meet the implied standard of competence expected from EC Council certified training, potentially leaving individuals ill-equipped to handle critical situations. Another incorrect approach that focuses exclusively on advanced technical tools without covering foundational incident response methodologies is also professionally unacceptable. This is an ethical failure, as it prioritizes a narrow skill set over a holistic understanding of incident response, which is vital for effective and compliant handling of breaches. A third incorrect approach that omits discussion of relevant legal and regulatory compliance aspects of incident response, such as data breach notification laws, is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This oversight can lead to non-compliance, legal repercussion, and reputational damage for both the organization and the individuals trained. Professionals should approach training development and delivery by first understanding the core competencies and learning objectives mandated by the certification. They should then design a curriculum that progressively builds knowledge and skills, incorporating diverse learning modalities to cater to different learning styles and ensure practical application. Regular feedback from participants and continuous refinement of training materials based on industry trends and evolving threats are also critical components of professional decision-making in this domain.